This is Our View, brought to you by the proud members of the Washington Federation of State Employees, the people who work for you. The state legislature at almost the last hour passed the budget. Failure would have shut down many state services, but it did pass, with state employees working the past months to save many public services that were at risk.
Well, our members proved that politics is like water and it will follow the path of least resistance. So through our member education, our member lobby program, our coordinated statewide in-district actions, our calls, our emails, our constant pressure on the legislature, we narrowly avoided a state government shutdown. And that's a huge victory, not just for our members who work hard in the state of Washington, but for the citizens in this state who, rely heavily on the public services that our members provide. Not only did we fight to make sure that our contracts were fully funded, and that's certainly a victory, but we held the line on our health insurance. So the legislature passed a budget that didn't include any increase in our PEB surcharges. So we were able to fight back and make sure that state employee spouses were not kicked off of health care. That's a huge victory. It's more than 20,000 state employee spouses were at risk during this session. We made gains in mental health, not just in increased funding for mental health, but in strong policy language, protecting our state's mentally ill. We fought back on all the Freedom Foundation's legislative agenda, all the attacks on public sector unions and workers' rights that were coming at us through the Senate. We fought back and, we were able to make sure that a budget was passed that didn't include any takeaways for our collective bargaining agreements.
As the legislature's second special session neared an end, it was learned that several of the members were enjoying themselves at the U.S. Open rather than solving the budget crisis in Olympia. To make the point, members of the University of Washington Local 1488 had a lunchtime unity break and held their own golf event, even awarding a green jacket to the winner. Local 1488 members did their golf event on their own time and then finished their day's work, asking the Senate members to do the same.
The reason why we have this golf putting tournament here today is to show that we are in protest of the senators going out and watching the golf games at the U.S. Open. We would like to see them stay in their office and finish up their work and get the budget done. We're in the second session, and let's get it done. And let's fund our contracts.
We're giving our efforts to help our fellow citizens and people of Washington State. And we should be respected and honored for that, not cheated and not belittled.
And now we're under threat by our own state legislature not to affirm that contract and not to give us our increases, even though they got over 11% increases in their salary this year. They're denying us a 1% to 2% increase over the next 2 or 3 years. And I think that that's wrong, and I think that people in the state should know about it.
And that we are not going to stand for the measly little $1,000 a year for the next 2 years that they want to give us and take away our health care benefits for our spouses. And we just really want to be treated fairly.
The Senate isn't letting down the entire state. Without funding the contracts, we're losing services. These are important services. We're going to close down parks right at the height of summer, and we're going to close down parks just because these overpaid, overblown senators have nothing to better, they have their money, but God forbid the rest of us should get ours, right? And so, anyway, yeah, but it's a disappointment.
It's not just about us. This is about anybody in the state that pays taxes and expects services from the Senate. And it would be nice to have a Senate that actually does the job.
Well, I'd like to see the Senate fund K through 12, basically do their job and take care of the state workers. We've taken care of the state for years, and it seems like our wages keep going down, and we never get anything. So we'd like to see just do your job and take care of the people that take care of you guys, basically, and take care of the state.
If they can't do their jobs and find us the monies for us to get our little raise, our small raise, well, they shouldn't be able to get their big raises. If we can't get any money, they shouldn't be able to get any money. That's what I think.
If I worked the same way that the Senate works, I would have been fired long ago, not eligible for rehire. They need to get working, they need to get busy doing their job in the correct amount of time.
They're down in Tacoma at the U.S. Open instead of staying in Olympia and working on the budget. You know, that's why these people are upset. So they thought, well, let's put on these fun and games, you know, and say to the legislature, okay, you want to be at the U.S. Open? We're down here taking care of business. They want them to be back in Olympia, taking care of business, you know, fund their contracts and get us a budget.
FIFA, the international governing body of world soccer, has been under fire as the world learns of bribery and other corruption, as well as slave-like working conditions, as the nation of Qatar builds the facilities for the 2022 World Cup. Sepp Blatter, FIFA's president since 1998, recently announced he is stepping down just hours after his re-election. The most prominent voice in the world's labor movement drawing attention to the horrible working conditions in Qatar has been Sharon Burrow, General Secretary of the ITUC in Brussels. Our Views producer spoke with her just hours after Blatter announced he was resigning.
Well, Qatar's a slave state, and the Qataris at this point must be very worried, and we hope they are. If they want to maintain the World Cup, which now the world knows was basically awarded on a corrupt basis, then they have to look to change their rights. They have to change their laws to afford workers' rights. You can't keep 1.4 million and more migrant workers enslaved, living in squalor, working in extreme conditions under extreme heat, and then keeping them trapped in Qatar when they want to leave and pretend this is a just and decent system. The kafala system must end. But I have to say, I was on the streets of Zurich last week, actually working with an employer, handing out spoof newspapers about what the world might be like if Sepp Blatter was a decent human being and had won the Nobel Prize for standing up for human rights. It was a great day. It happened to be my birthday. It was the best birthday ever. But last night, I actually celebrated, because when Sepp Blatter said last week, I've presided over FIFA for 17 years, but I'm not responsible. That was just a very bad joke. Last night, forced to resign, there was a measure of justice. Now, if FIFA is serious, if the sponsors keep the pressure up for reform, we may very well see the ultimate power we've said FIFA does hold implemented, so that the Emir in Qatar says, I want the World Cup, I will introduce workers' rights, and then we'll work with them to deliver that justice for workers. But if they don't do that, we'll continue to fight. But when you meet workers in slavery, enslaved in the 21st century under the kafala system, because the government of Qatar and the other Gulf states does not see these workers as equal human beings with human and labour rights, it makes you very angry. So every piece of justice we can get for those workers will count.
Noted author and labor activist Bill Fletcher was the keynote speaker at the recent Pacific Northwest Labor History Association convention and offered some thoughts on how America's labor movement must change to survive, and that change must include facing some realities of the day.
You know, I'm tired of people complaining about the Koch brothers. And they say, well, the Koch brothers have zillions of dollars. Right? Well, there's no time in history that the oppressed ever had more resources than the oppressor. Never, right? And so we just have to start there. We just have to get over it, right? We have to just get over it. We're not going to have the money the Koch brothers are going to have. There is no invisible socialist country in the middle of the Atlantic that's going to ship us gold. Right? There's no billionaire that's sitting around just saying, damn, I wish I could fund a revolution. It just simply doesn't work that way. So when you're in an asymmetric situation, it means your strategy has to change entirely. And the problem for the labor movement, the union movement, is that it doesn't want to accept the depth of the strategic defeat and the fact that we are in an asymmetric situation, meaning we cannot continue to fight the way that we have in the past. I grew up watching films, and I love to use films for metaphor. And a few months back, this just came to mind. I I don't know how many of you ever saw the film The Flight of the Phoenix. The Flight of the Phoenix is about this cargo plane going across the Libyan desert. Jimmy Stewart, Ernest Borgnine, Richard Attenborough are in the original ones. Going, and they get into the sandstorm and they crash. And they're in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Jimmy Stewart, who's the pilot, walks around, surveys the plane, and understands that the plane will never take off again. It just won't. So the problem then is, like, what are they going to do? On the plane is this aircraft engineer. He surveys the plane. And he goes back to Jimmy Stewart and says, you know, we have the right parts on this plane to build a new one that will get us out. And everyone laughs at him at first. But the choice for the survivors was simple. They could sit under the wing of the plane in the shade of the desert, sun, and wait for help, which means to die slowly. They could try walking out of the desert, which would probably also mean death, or they could build a new plane. And they ultimately build a new plane. One of the greatest, most difficult realizations for me has been, after years in the trade union movement, is that our plane crashed. It's not taking off again. It's not. The movement that brought us all to this room is stuck in the sand. Now, the good news is that the parts are there to build a new plane. And everything that we do going forward must be with the aim, whether we're trying to reform a union or build new institutions, building the Domestic Workers Association, building jobs of justice, everything must be done with an aim of the creation of that new movement.
This has been Our View, brought to you by the members of the Washington Federation of State Employees. We remind you, when you accept a paycheck for your hard work, you don't give up your rights. Thank you for watching.
I'm Danny Glover, and I believe the Postal Service is one of our most vital institutions. I'm the son of postal workers. My mom and dad worked for the Postal Service for most of their working lives. My sister was a postal clerk, my brother a letter carrier. I even worked at the post office during Christmas breaks as a teenager. Working for the Postal Service enabled my parents to buy their first home. They took great pride in their work, connecting customers, families, businesses, uniting our country. Now more than ever, we need the Postal Service to thrive and innovate for the future. The Postal Service belongs to all of us. It reaches everyone, everywhere, delivering medicine, packages, letters, newspapers, and catalogs without a dime of taxpayers' money. It never stops. But some people want to bury the Postal Service. Shut offices, reduce hours, limit delivery, outsource it, divide it, and privatize it. The post office is an anchor, a symbol of community. The Postal Service bridges racial, political, geographic, and economic divides. It is one of the nation's largest employers of veterans, women, and minorities, providing equal pay for equal work, good, decent union jobs. Let's salute the 625,000 postal workers. They stamped their mark of excellence on the Postal Service of yesterday, today, forever. Join me in a grand alliance to strengthen a cherished institution, our Postal Service, a public trust, a national treasure.